Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All Americans, regardless of age, zip code, or income, deserve to live in a safe, clean, and stable home they can afford. This is exactly what a healthy, just, and secure community relies on. It ensures that people are able to meet their basic needs. When over 145,000 Social Security beneficiaries in my district, the 10th Congressional District of Washington State, representing nearly 21% of the population, only have $100 to $200 to spare for groceries, utilities, and other basic expenses after paying their rent or mortgage, we know that prosperity is not being shared equally nor equitably. When our service members at Joint Base Lewis-McChord simply cannot find homes off-post or on post for their families due to either lack of supply or the cost of housing, we must clearly improve our mission to support our nation's heroes. These are just a few of the stories that thousands of Washington State residents and families are experiencing, just like millions of Americans across the country. And we know the driving factor behind this housing crisis is lack of supply. We don't have enough housing, and we aren't building it fast enough to meet the demand. And some of the housing that we do have is not fit for human habitation. According to Up for Growth, an organization that advocates for more housing, the report on housing underproduction from 2010 to 2017 in Washington State, here are some startling data points. For every one household that moved into my district, there were 0.64 housing units produced in Pierce County, 0.76 units in Thurston County, and 0.62 housing units in Mason County. So this means that for every family that moved into our district, that we were producing 2/3 to 3/4 of the housing that we needed to accommodate them. This also means that for over 7 years, population increased, demand far outpaced supply, resulting in this crunch or lack of inventory that so many families are feeling right now. What's more, there remains a shortage of nearly 160,000 homes for extremely low-income renters, and nearly 500,000 renters in Washington State are rent-burdened, which means that they spend more than 30% of their income on housing alone. Now, housing experts have told us that we need a once-in-a-generation solution to our housing supply shortage. That time is now. Now is our opportunity to build smarter, build better, and to do it inclusively. We have solutions on the table, and it's well past time to use them. We can build to higher density inside transit corridors, leveraging existing infrastructure. That's why I was so proud to help introduce, bipartisan, the Build More Housing Near Transit Act with Representative Scott Peters to make sure that when we're investing $2.3 billion each year for large-scale transit projects, we are ensuring that local land use policies, which are often the biggest barrier to increasing housing supply, will encourage sensible development around these major infrastructure investments. For so long, we have built housing infrastructure around automobiles, and that's a relic of the past. But now we must invest in transit to look to utilize good and smart land use policies. For our military service members and their families, we can find solutions in the National Defense Authorization Act provisions, which passed out of the House in a bipartisan manner just weeks ago. I offered one provision, which will direct the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Energy, Installations, and Environment to answer one question: how long are wait times for housing located on military installations in competitive housing markets? And we want them to produce a strategy to address this demand for housing. It is simply unacceptable that service members and their families must wait more than 6 months to be assigned housing on base at Joint Base Lewis-McChord. I urge all of my colleagues to support this inclusion of several reports that will address the issue, including a report on how and the extent to which commanders of military installations are connecting military families with local nonprofit organizations and government entities that provide services to the military, including assistance with finding housing. And importantly, we must pass both our bipartisan infrastructure proposal and the Build Back Better Act, and specifically deploy the Unlocking Possibilities program. This competitive grant program through HUD will be used to support cities and towns to design and implement policies that eliminate exclusionary zoning and artificial barriers to adding more housing. I urge all of my colleagues to work to retain this important program in our Build Back Better proposal. Being securely housed is a fundamental human right, regardless of your political affiliation. The cost of continuing to ignore our lack of supply is far too great, especially when the tools we need are at our disposal. Let's use them. Let's show our constituents that we can and will build back better. To do otherwise is irresponsible. Thank you, and I yield my time.